that has been recently made popular with a lot of parents kind of studying grit as it pertains to their children who may be in school, developing a level of stick-to-itiveness, if you will. So if you're wondering what grit is passion and perseverance for long-term and meaningful goals. It is the ability to persist in something you feel passionate about and persevere when you face obstacles. Now, this kind of passion is not about intense emotions or infatuation. It's about having direction and commitment. Now, here's one thing that I've always grown up knowing. I have 2 siblings. I am the youngest of 3. My sister has always been book smart, really able to retain a lot of information, difficult information, always been really good at math, at studying sciences, which is the complete opposite for my brother. Not necessarily a book guy, but definitely someone who is street smart. He's the type of guy that you could probably drop off in the middle of nowhere with no resources, and he would figure out a way to make it through. He'd build something. He'd figure it out. And then there's me. And now the one thing that has always separated us, even though we come from the same place, is I'm pretty decent book-wise. I'm pretty decent when it comes to street smarts. But the one thing that I've always had is a level of ambition and grit that has allowed me to persevere through a lot of difficult situations. Now, that doesn't mean that my siblings have no grit or they have no perseverance. But there is, to me, perseverance is like a life raft. Grit is like a life raft meant to challenge you and take you along. You ride the wave of grit, taking you from glory to glory to glory, from obstacle to obstacle to obstacle. Grit allows you to persevere. So, can you teach grit? Can you teach someone seemingly how to develop some stick-to-itiveness? Listen, grit is about having direction and commitment. When you have a certain kind of passion for something, you ever wonder why there are some people who are really great at things, but can never seemingly hold their focus long enough to get to the end of any task? They oftentimes get bored or it becomes too difficult for them. Listen, grit is about persevering even when you experience difficulty or, that much worse, failure. Grit is not a talent. Grit is not the person who can solve the math problem. Grit is oftentimes not the person who can perform the best or has the best IQ or is the best at any particular thing. Grit is oftentimes the face of someone who has the ability to commit. Commitment. A huge word that is daunting to most of us. Now, you don't develop grit by demanding that someone pull themselves together by the bootstraps and meet every obstacle face on and head for it like they were running for the border at Taco Bell. Sometimes developing grit takes therapy. It takes a level of understanding that a lot of us may not have. See, grit is about talent and effort and skill and endurance. See, achievement is just about skill and effort. Skill is a lot of times mostly just talent and effort. But grit is the destination. But grit is also the journey. It's frustrating to go through any level of difficulty in anyone's life. It's been scientifically proven. There was a scientist, psychologist, Angela Duckworth. And she once said that the secret to amazing achievement is not talent. It is a special blend of persistence and passion, otherwise known as grit. How do you get someone to develop grit? I really wish that I could tell you that there was some easy formula. But what I can tell you is grit comes when you know who you are. I know, you just can't avoid it. Grit comes oftentimes in the dark. See, that's the thing about grit. Grit isn't about someone not feeling the fear. Grit is not about someone not having obstacles, but it is about someone looking that obstacle in the face and heading straight for it. It's almost the feeling that you get when you push your teeth together and clamp them together and say, motherfucker, I'm going to tear this shit up. That's grit. So the answer is easy. How do you can't avoid grit. And listen, here's one thing I know about grit. Just like most obstacles, it's not that God promised us a challenge-free life. He promised us the grace to be able to get through it. See, in my weakness, his grace is made sufficient for me. So that's all it takes. There's no special secrets. There's no special sauce to it. It's grace. He's already been merciful enough to provide that for you. So are you going to look this obstacle in the eye and say, you know what, no matter how difficult it gets, I'm going to face it head on? Listen, giants all die. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. If I can encourage you to do anything this week, it is to walk around your Jericho wall. Because what's been loosed in the heavens shall be loosed on earth. Child, don't get me to preaching up in here. I promise you, just a little grit goes a long way. So clamp your teeth together, clench those butt cheeks together, and go for what you know. Listen, I love you for listening. Make it a grit week, y'all. And remember, starting today, I constantly attract abundance with my thoughts. I love you for listening. Peace.